Hi, it's Mickey Dolenz here. You're listening to Inspirado Projecto.
We know what kind of experimentation they have done on that.
How did you find out about this?
A lot of research going into some crazy action.
Can I record you talking about this?
Yeah.
Because I've never.
Okay. But, yeah.
I've never heard about this before.
And that's what they think all of the chimp was.
That he was a hybrid
He
creature.
was a hybrid in between a human and... because his DNA wasn't... It was something different than a normal chimp's DNA. And there's only one difference between... I forgot the name of the one chromosome. But between man and, say, chimpanzee. There's only one chromosome.
So 1926. How did you first hear about the
it was
woman who was experimented on?
Okay, I can't remember exactly why I went into this, because you know how I am. I go into whatever, trying to find out all this information. Especially recently, with the ties with the Annunaki and the Bible. Matter of fact, when being up there in Temple City really changed my outlook. Being with a extreme, over-the-edge Catholic. And with my philosophy and everything, that she took me down some really strange paths. And it was very eye-opening, because everything tied together even further.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy further, because all the things that she was telling me that were in the Bible, I was over there telling her the real story behind it, and how it worked in detail. And she's like, you don't know this because the Bible doesn't say this. And I says, but there's other books that tell you the truth, that tells you about this incident more than one line, like the Bible says. The Bible, it's very vague. There's actual documentation saying, no, this is what really happened at this event. Blah, 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 blah. You know, like what happened between, this all came about between Abraham and Ismail. There was a huge break. It was the biggest break in the Bible. Because what it did is it broke up the Muslim world from the Christianity, from the Jewish world. And it's written there in the Bible, and it's written there in the Quran. You know, when this break happened. Boy, and I went back in the Annunaki notes. Sure as shit, it's in there. You know, another biblical thing being right there in the middle of their scrolls, their tablets that are off limits to us. The information's there, and it was really amazing. But,
God, that's incredible.
It's incredible. It all ties together so well. You know, the story of Cain. You know, you read about it in the Bible, and that's what I was doing with John last night. As I pulled out his Bible and I started reading the Bible. And I said, okay, this is what I found out. This is what the Bible says. This is what I found out. This is what the Bible says. He goes, man, the Bible just doesn't tell you anything. You know, and then when I tried to explain to her that I don't live by the first book of the Bible, and she goes, oh, the Old Testament. And I said, no. I live by the second book. She goes, oh, the New Testament. I said, no. There are 3 books of the Bible. She goes, no, there's only 2 books. I said, no. She goes, no, there's 66. I said, no, there's 3. If you look in the Bible tells you there's 3 different books. Okay? The one for now, the one for later, and another one for the far future. And this is why Sir Isaac Newton went looking for it. That was his life goal.
Oh,
if you go through his notes, it's not the law of...
to try to find another book of the Bible?
To find the other book of the Bible. He was obsessed by it. His whole life was trying, because he found the verse in the Bible that says there's other books of the Bible. Within the books of the Bible. You need to read all the words, all the letters of the Bible consecutively. There's no breaks between the letters. The Bible tells you this. And it's only the first 16 books that were written by God, not the rest of them. Only the first 16 that were written by God. And if you do this in ancient Hebrew, you put all the letters together, there's 316,000 and something letters total. Then it has a code. There's a code built into it. And the code is the Bible code. That's what I call it. A lot of people call it the Torah codes. And it was created for a computer system. So that was the second book. Because now you can... The first book was meant for suppression, to suppress humans. Because humans at that time were fighting because they wanted supremacy. They didn't want to be slaves anymore. Because basically they were slaves originally. So the book was meant to hold them down. That's why the Temple of Babel came along. Was they confused all their languages because they were talking too much. And they talk about this. They were talking too much. They were starting to band together. They were going to fight against us. And we didn't want them to fight against us, so we jumbled all their language together. Now they can't fight us anymore. You know, the original creatures that were first made, were created, lived between 800 and 900 years. That didn't work either, because during that time, for that long of a period that they're alive, there's dissension. So they had to cut down their lifespan. And that's why, Methuselah and Noah lived to be 800 years old, while Moses lived to be about 150 years old. I think he died at 120-something years old. Okay, now we live to be about 70, because they found out there was even dissension later on, so they even cut down the lifespan even more for us.
So the Anunnaki wrote the Bible, and then started. How do you think they first distributed it? Just scrolls, or did they write it, or? Okay,
if you go by what Moses said, okay, because I think you have to go by the word of the Bible. I think it's correct. I haven't checked that link yet between how it was brought to Moses and see how that all works together with their scrolls.
It'd be fun to see the connections between, and then deciding what language, because you're saying it because it was in Sumerian or what, Hebrew or
ancient Hebrew, something close to ancient Hebrew.
They somehow overlapped, kind of like how Spanish can understand Italian a little bit.
Right, and how French can understand Spanish, and how Latin is really close. All the Romantic languages are very close. It's the same thing.
So that's how the guy that you know, or whoever read through the tablets, found the tablets, that's how they were able to decipher that, because they were like, oh, this is too close to this language. And you're like, whoa.
This is just like ancient Hebrew. And they were able to decipher everything.
So when they were writing Hebrew...
That was before... Because that was found before the
before the Tower of Babel?
No. The Rosetta Stone. Because they knew... Rosetta Stone was the main thing. Because the Rosetta Stone was basically... It showed 3 languages, all interpreted, all on the same piece of rock. Because before that, we didn't know about ancient hieroglyphics. We had no idea what their language meant. It was a bunch of these, symbols of whatever. After that, we knew, because we understood ancient Hebrew from back in the day. And you had this rock that went in and says, whoa, now this symbol means this symbol in ancient Hebrew means this in Egyptian. Cool, okay, now we understand. We have a translator. And it was with ancient Greek, too. So it was, ancient Greek, ancient Hebrew, and hieroglyphics. The 3, but that was before that. But they knew the language all along.
So the Rosetta Stone apparently had 3. You said 3 different languages on it.
Yeah.
Could you? That'd be interesting to know the story of those who were the linguists, so to speak, who were able to find the connections between languages and spend time with people that understand. This is what rock means. It means schning schnunk in whatever, or
right.
in this language, and finding those comparisons, like, and then giving that information to others and teaching that. I mean, it's just crazy when you think about that.
It's like the Annunnaki's name for Earth was Eden. Okay, the Garden of Eden. Okay, is that a coincidence? I don't think so.
So the Anunnaki, was their language... What was it? Was it Hebrew-ish?
Or it was very close to ancient Hebrew.
So their specific language, okay.
it cast it over.
So they wrote, once they started noticing that the humans were kind of banding together, that's when they decide to write do the Tower of Babel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at what point did they start giving the humans the myth or the lore of how they came to be? At what point do you think...
That was the Bible. That was the suppression tool.
But at what point in their evolution and sort of like intelligence level? Because you're saying that the Anunnaki grew the humans, right?
Yeah.
It
took them a very long time to go there and make us. Yeah, because they did. There was 2 species on the Earth at the time. There was a Cro-Magnon man, and there was Neanderthal. There were 2 different ones. Okay? And they tried both. That's what they said. They took both species. They tried to make hybrids out of them using their own DNA. Okay? Because they saw that they were kind of close. And they tried to use their own DNA, and they couldn't get it to work. And according to their records, it was about 32,000 years that they spent trying to do this. Because they have a very long lifespan and everything else. and they could make the creature, but they could never give him to breed.
Oh,
that was where the problem was.
Oh,
it came to the sexual part. They kept trying to get the two to breed, and the survival rate of the babies, there was no survival rate. So finally, this one time, and they were all black. They couldn't get white ones. They tried and tried to go in there and change the skin color because the Anunnaki were light skinned.
Oh,
they were light skinned people, and all the by taking these basically chimps, you figure Neanderthal man and Cro-Magnon man, which were both all black, kind of like a chimp would be, or a gorilla, and when they would mix the DNA, the chimp DNA would overpower it, so they would all end up black all the time.
And the Anunnaki were trying to just make these things look more like them,
so
they could trick them in, or it
for a power struggle?
So for a power struggle,
for the lighter ones would become the hierarchy, just like how it is now.
Okay,
it's the same thing. The lighter skinned people have the hierarchy over the darker skinned people. Yeah, same thing today. There's a lot of things to translate over. The beards. The Anunnaki had huge beards. They had huge beards. They had no respect for women. They kept their women under veils, and they kept them away from other things because they were the number one antagonist for men. That's what they believed, because women would always go behind their back and always had dissension and would never think of things logically. They always thought of things illogically. They thought of things with emotion, and it's the same thing that happens today with women. And they wrote all about this, and their whole religion was based on this, was to suppress the women because the women would cause all these problems. And you see that with the Arab countries today. What do? They have big long beards and they suppress their women. It's the same thing, and so there's a lot of the culture that's carried over.
A lot of parallels between these things.
A lot of parallels. A lot of the things. The thing that kills me the most is what happened in the Americas. Okay, if you go into the Anunnaki story, when you had Adam and Eve. Okay, Adam and Eve had Cain and Abel. They were the first children that were born as hybrids. Cain and Abel, and what they do? They ended up Cain ended up killing Abel. Okay, Anunnaki go, oh wow, boy, we made a mistake here. Let's stick him someplace else. We don't want violent people in our area. So they stuck him over in the Americas. And they took all the other hybrid people that they were making that were pretty messed up and sent them over to the Americas.
Oh, wow.
And that's where you get
all
the
Americas. We
and you see the same thing happening today.
What about Native Americans? Is that where the Native Americans came from?
Okay, no, it's all the Aztecs, all the crazy countries. All the crazy countries that have all the pyramids and all that stuff. That was Cain's doing.
Okay.
Cain created this, sacrifice the humans and all this weird rituals and all the stuff that we have over here that they didn't have over on that side. Okay, the Egyptians didn't do stuff like that. They were weird people. They were more like, you had a dream? Tell me about your dream. I want to know about how you feel. They were very intellectual people. Well, over here in the Americas, machete, chop, yeah, blood. Goes back to Cain. So lo and behold, all these thousands of years later, the main reason why the Anunnaki left was Cain's grandson comes back to Egypt and says, you know something? I'm the ruler now. And the Anunnaki went, whoa, he's got a lot of stuff behind him. Let's get the hell out of here. And that's when they split. And that's why the Egyptians became the number one civilization at that time. He declared himself the Ra, the sun god. I'm the sun god, I'm the ruler, I'm in charge of this. And he took over Egypt. It took over basically the world at that time. Yeah.
So at what point did the Anunnaki give the humans, do you think, during their... Because at some point they must have reached some sort of intelligence where then they could read and they could understand. Well, I guess in that day there was only language. There wasn't stuff written down.
There was nothing
right?
written. No.
So it was all just language. So do you think so now I think I'm making more sense of this. So as they questioned where they came from, the Anunnaki would say, you came from this lineage, here's your history.
It was, okay, the first 16 books, of the Bible basically were written just to suppress them. Okay, this is, because if you read about, God was bad. They instilled that thing of God. And God is evil. God is bad. God's going to kill you. God's going to do these things to you.
Yeah.
Okay? And it kept people, ooh, I'm afraid of God. God's going to hurt me. Okay? Then
so like unexplained events were just caused by God. A flood, God's angry.
God's angry.
They make a connection. Oh, it's because you did this. You stole my tomatoes, so now we're all going to die because
we're all going to die.
Flood's coming in. You look what you did to God. Now he's getting you back, right?
Right, exactly.
And so they would use that. So interesting, because that's that fear of the unknown. You're just leveraging that fear of the unknown, so to speak.
All the time.
Calling it God, give it a name.
Right.
Well, he looks like this. Well, how do you know? Well, it's in the books. What? Or so I've been told. Bam, he came from here or came from there. Or...
Like now, ISIS and Al Qaeda. What do we have fear of? Terrorism. It's the same thing back then. Let's create this fear.
How interesting.
9/11. They've done this all through history. There's a lot of evidence. Pearl Harbor. There's a lot of evidence showing that. 9/11 was definite. That was just... I'm going to write a script on that one day. It's going to be called The Greatest Heist. It's to be written in the perspective of an 8-year-old child. Yeah. And he's going to be there at 9/11. And the whole thing leading up to all the events before 9/11 to show how 9/11 happened. Okay? Because there's a lot of things that happened before 9/11. Okay? A lot of shit happened. And to show that kid when he was in the building, when they had all the security guards over there with guns 6 months before the buildings went down.
So maybe he was like busy playing hide and seek from his friends or something. He ended up coming across this thing and kind of snooping around,
right.
Maybe.
Yeah, or watching the people bringing the explosives in the building to blow up the building 6 months before the towers went down.
It's so interesting because like these days with the idea of internet and YouTube and the ways of being able to get, having a blog, being able to get information out there faster, and especially in this day and age with Photoshop and all that jazz, and there are still major hoaxes, media hoaxes and all that stuff,
crazy.
and CIA planted as journalists on news and whatnot. Knowing that stuff goes on now, just imagine how much even more you could have gotten away with back in the day, where you could just come up with any story.
Anything, yeah. The master plan behind 9/11, it was crazy. It started a year before. A year and a day. That's when it started. September 10th, 2000. That's when it all started. There was documentation on that day from Rumsfeld, Cheney, all the bigwigs saying that it was time to go there and have a big shakeup in the world because people were becoming too complacent. And it was a document that was written, and it was at the Department of Defense, and it was outlined. It was given to at that time I think it was President Clinton, and saying, hey, things are too stale. We better do something here. Lo and behold, guess what happens? Bush comes into office. Clinton's already, his mind's gone. If you go into Clinton's mind at that time, all he cared about was pussy, movies, and golf. I read a very interesting story about him. It was by his chief of staff. And it was called Where's Bill Clinton? And this is a guy that spent 5 years with him. And it was first 4 years of his presidency, best president I ever worked under. He said, that man, he did a whole bunch for this country. He said, as soon as he was inaugurated the second time, he goes, had a staff meeting, he goes, I did my job, you guys do the rest. I'm going to go watch a movie. And that's how it ended. He said, within 6 months, the guy didn't do a damn thing. And he said, I left office. I quit. And that was the truth. The last 4 years of his office, Hillary ran the place. And she was a fucking witch from hell. Killing people like you wouldn't believe in there. When you go through the history of it all. What did they do at the White House? Did you ever hear about what they did at the White House? when they left the White House, Hillary, when they took one of James Madison's bases that Dolly Madison had made, that was sitting in the White House for all these years, got it smashed against the wall. Yeah, because I can do it. Got spray cans, sprayed the walls, graffitied the whole fucking White House. Took hammers and shit and broke everything that was in there except for a couple of the George Washington things because they have respect for George Washington. It took George Bush an extra month and a half to move in the White House because they had to renovate it after the Clintons left.
Okay, so do you think these people know that the... Because I thought I heard you say something about, or I've read somewhere, that the Annunaki are, in a sense, still kind of got their eyes on us and kind of making decisions and stuff.
There's all kinds of shit going on.
Do those folks know... Do you think that presidents are aware that the Annunaki are there? Is that part of the classified top-secret information that they're given when they go
Okay, when the Bible codes were discovered, 1991, that's when they were discovered. Where it all went back to was... what was his name? He was the president of Israel. It wasn't. It was after Menachem Begin. I forgot the guy's name, but anyway, he was going to be assassinated. And when they found out the Bible code, this Bible code is just amazing. You can ask it anything. I did.
Well, as a side note, I think it's interesting that no matter what language that was written in, the math still retains the same.
It still retains the same.
So whatever you find in there could end up, if you read it there and those numbers match up, you could find it, like, let's say if you're Korean, or whether you're frickin' Hungarian, whether you're whatever.
It doesn't matter what language it is.
So what did you notice about it that had to do with you?
Oh, with me, my personal experience was really
what the
bizarre.
heck
Because, Rips, Professor Rips, he's the guy that discovered it. Okay, because he went back and he saw what Sir Isaac Newton did. He saw what Hitler did, because Hitler was the next one. Hitler had a whole team of code breakers in a warehouse trying to break a Bible code. Okay, they were trying to find some kind of code by using the information that was in the Bible.
Wow.
And they came close. They came close.
To really figuring it out
until we broke up their regime. They came very close. So Rips looks at all this information. He's Jewish. He's looking at all this stuff, and he's like, I'm a mathematician. I have a computer. Let's see if I can do it. So he did. He duplicated whatever was in the Bible. And he says, okay, my first test. Blah, blah, blah. His name starts with M, something Rips. He puts in his name, and it shows his genealogy.
In the Bible code?
In the code, on the computer. Because he asks the computer to find me in here, right? And it comes out with, oh yeah, you have this over here, you have this, you have this, you have this, you have this, and it tells you all this stuff about you. He's like, what the hell?
So it was
Why is the Bible code to know about me? Right? So he looks at it and it says, okay, you were born on this day. Oh my God, I was born on this day. You're going to die on this day. Oh shit, I'm going to die on this day? Oh, thank God I'm alive today. Okay, I'm going to die on this day. Okay, this is your mom. This is your dad. This is your kids. You, originator of the codes. Whoa. I am the originator of the codes. I am this. This is what the book says. Holy shit.
It's saying that you are the originator of the codes.
This guy, Rips.
Right? Like, that he was the originator of the codes.
Because he's the originator. And he
was the first one who found it and discovered it. So it's predicting him finding it and reading it.
And he's reading it.
Dude, what a crazy thing. The universe is going, here's a high five to you, man.
He said he was freaked. He walked away from it for 3 days.
Is this guy still alive?
Yeah, he's still alive.
Dude, we got to interview this guy, man.
He's in Israel.
I got to get him on Inspirado. Does he speak English?
Oh, yeah.
We got to get him on Inspirado.
He comes back and forth between here and New Jersey. Yeah.
And does he know how to decipher it? So could he decipher
he's the man.
Let's say we talk to him on Skype at Inspirado Projecto. You, me, we talk to him on Skype, and we go, hey, here's our names. What do you discover about us in the Bible code? We could do it live right there on air. How crazy would that be? Well, how did you find it?
You can access it on the computer now. You can get this stuff. You for $90.
I don't have to go to like some secret university.
No.
University where someone
because
specializes.
Now, if it originated in the United States, you probably would never have heard about it. Or in Britain, they would put it underneath the carpet, and you would have never found out about it. But this guy's from Israel, and the coincidence about how it ended up in the hands of a journalist, and the journalist wrote a book about it, and they were really good friends, and that's how it all worked out, and that's how it ended up in the public's hands. So I got to play with it. I played with it twice. I put in Arnold Schwarzenegger and I put myself in. Those were the two names. Because it gave me 2 searches for free.
Did you discover things? What things in there did you discover that were close to things that that resonated with you? That
it had my name. It had my date of birth, and I died when I'm 87, sometime in October 6th, 16th or something. I was 87 years old. That's what it told me. So okay.
So
I looked up Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, did you just look up your name and your death date, or how did
No, it tells you.
Oh.
I put in Michael J. Schlie.
Because can you...
Michael J. Schlie.
Okay, so what if there's another Michael J. Schlie? I guess it would be tailor-fit towards them.
It knew it was me. It had my birthday.
Okay, so how do you discover the other things about yourself in there? Where it says, famous screenwriter.
It didn't tell me. It didn't tell
TV
me
mogul.
anything.
Things that are
because there's other searches that I probably could have went into, but that was the first one I found.
What kind of searches do they give you options for?
This one only gave me 2. I got 2 searches. Boom! I came up with this one. I selected this one. I said, okay, cool, and that's what it told me. And I was like, holy shit, this is scary. This is fucking scary. Okay, and then I looked up Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I ended up with, oh man, it was like 400 something hits. Right? But then, this is the funny thing that they found out is, you're making history all the time. It's changing as the history's going on.
This is so awesome. So in a sense, it's reflecting back to you what your already current...
Right. Because they found this out with something. Something happened. They looked at something in the past, right? And it said one thing. Something else happened in the future. When they went back to it, and they went back to the same thing, it said a different thing. And they're like, but the words of the Bible don't change. How did this code change itself?
So it was as if the Bible code was reading the possible future if they continued on the same vibratory path, maybe?
Right.
And if they didn't make so maybe when you made an alteration, maybe you first read it and it goes,
right.
Okay, here's what happens if you continue on this path.
Yeah.
But you can always change it.
You can always,
and then once you change it, come back and read it again, and you go, oh, this is reflecting the new decision I made.
Right.
Holy moly,
so
interesting.
So it morphed itself.
So it's like what came first, chicken or the egg kind of thing.
Right. And they didn't know what to do at that point, because you're like, no, these are the same 316,000 words or 1,000 letters of the Bible. They didn't change themselves. What's changing them? Somebody else still has control over this book. And it was like, oh, fuck. Okay? Then it goes back to all this other shit that goes on. And I'm like, okay. You're still in control, motherfuckers. You're still in control.
So are the Annunaki talking to us through the Bible code?
Yeah.
So did they invent the Bible code?
At this point, I'll tell you the biggest thing out of the whole thing, and this is just one, okay, was Pope Benedict. One of the biggest things that they talked about Pope Benedict in the Bible was he is the last pope for the end of days. When the earth goes, he's going to be your pope. Okay? I'm like, oh shit. I knew this before he became pope. I'm like, oh man, we don't have much time. We don't have much time. Okay? How long did he last as pope? 9 months. He resigned. The only pope ever to resign in, the 1,600 years of popes was this guy. There's a reason why he resigned.
So he wanted to resign before he died. So
he
could change history.
He changed history.
So he knew that if he stayed as pope and he died, would be the...
If he was still alive...
So he cut it off early.
He cut it off early.
He did something really extraordinary.
Exactly. Okay.
Whoa.
That was one. Okay, the guy that died.
It's like he created a new timeline. It's so interesting. It fits in line with quantum mechanics. Perfect.
Yeah, and the thing is, the codes tell you this. This is meant to be changed. We're giving you the code. We're telling you where you can go, but don't go there. We're telling you the other direction. That's what it's all about.
Wow, so it's like you're peering into a crystal ball, and it's feeding you a possible future. Well, and it definitely the path that you already took. It definitely already knows the path you already wrote, because you've already written that story.
Exactly.
There it is. And then on top, that's beautiful. So it's making you refamiliarize yourself with the path you've already taken, as well as going, you continue on this path, in this mindset, in this ecosystem, so to speak. Here's the kind of trees that you will grow. Here's the kind of creatures that you will grow. Here's the untimely death that you shall meet. You know? And so, but if you go, change a little something in your diet or whatever, something new in there, now you've created that whole new path. Wow, that's incredible. Wow. So then that kind of ties up with, you know, that mindset of like, oh, well, this is my lot in life. Oh, this is the cards I've been dealt. Oh, this is just how it'll always be for me. You know,
it has nothing to do with
it. It just shows you that, look, okay, do you want this to be your life? No. Okay, bam, here's...
And it just shows you how much of an illusion a clock is.
Yeah.
It's only an illusion.
Yeah.
And then I was trying to explain to somebody, too. And I said, and you can manipulate the clock on your own. And they're like, no, you can't.
How do you do it?
Are you fucking crazy? And I says, you can manipulate the clock. I tell you, and this is the reason why. It's called metabolism. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, it's real simple. Your metabolism is slow. You walk around like a slug. Okay? You're moving so slow. That clock goes super fast.
Yeah.
It moves super fast because you're moving so slow.
Incredible.
Okay?
Dude.
But when you're moving fast,
yeah,
and your metabolism's up,
yeah,
that clock goes super slow.
Whoa, that's interesting.
And when I looked at this as on the scientific end, it's all in my book. I wrote all about this shit. Yeah. So when you increase your metabolism, yeah, you live longer, you have more of a quality of life, everything else, and time goes by much slower.
Well, that's the other thing that I've heard too, is that when you get into that mode of just being in the now, when you get into the now, time does definitely become malleable, because you don't have that thing in the back of your brain of like trying to put the brakes on, like, oh gosh, I got to hurry up and I got to get there. Or you're not forcing anything; you're just living in the flow.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you're really making the most out of your time, because you know, I think that's how that is the secret to the youth, because then you don't feel there's no pressure on your back, there's no pressure in your brain, there's no pressure in your face. Mm-mm. And so now that's why, you know, you get like the Dick Clark kind of thing, where you're youthful, you know, your youthful spirit, and then it shows up on your face, shows up in your demeanor and everything.
Yeah. And staying relevant with new people, because when you're not relevant anymore, you fall down, you go down.
And I think too, becoming as relevant with nature as possible, growing that relationship. I think with you being in Temple City and you being so close to nature, holy cow, dude, I can only imagine how much that amplified your superpowers.
I think that's why I knocked out all that shit. John was like, what the fuck happened to you? He goes, you knock out all this shit as soon as you get here, plus you do this fucking video and you've only been here for a few hours.
Dude.
And I was like, this has been pent up in me. I said, I got to
work. Dude, every scientist deserves to have his laboratory. And you know what? You put yourself into that laboratory where all of this...
And then when I tell him how fucking Hollywood works when I come back, and he's just like, oh my God. And I says, it's totally different than what you thought. I said, this is how it all works now. I said, this is how you make, you know, and like I was explaining to him, I said, you know, when I put all this shit together in these packages that I showed you, I said, this stuff is all connected. You know, and he's like, I see this now. And I'm like, fucking connected. You know.
It's a renaissance.
It's crazy. You know.
Oh, wait. You know what? Hold on. I'm going to just... Either A, I want to continue talking, but we just don't refer to the beautiful things we talked about earlier. Oh. If you catch my drift.
Oh, we were talking about apes and the apes.
Oh, yeah, good. Well, I mean, earlier over next door is what I meant.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't want any of that stuff to seep in.
We'll talk about Oliver.
Okay. Oh, yes. Okay.
Oliver.
Oh, yes, Oliver. Okay, yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. So.
Oh, but in 29, they did the same thing. They forced two women with a. This is in a laboratory. It was outside of Trenton, New Jersey. And they forced two women, and one of them they both became impregnated by a chimpanzee. And one of them died. One of the babies died during birth. The other one lived 12 years in captivity. And, yeah, not a good situation. It was a very bad situation.
How tall was it?
Had very bad health issues.
Did it look like more like a human or more like a chimpanzee? Did it have a human face but a chimpanzee body? Did it have a chimpanzee face but a human body?
What they said, it was a cross. It was male. It was a cross direct in between. It was something very bizarre. And it was sterile, kind of like a mule would be, from crossing a donkey and a horse type of thing. It was sterile. And just a lot of major health issues, violent, and they had trouble controlling the violence with the temper, because it had more of a humanistic, intelligent type of temper, and became self-abusive at one point. Oh. And it was just very hard, and they finally put...
and that was back when?
This was
1926. Did you say?
29.
Oh, 1929.
And then it was put down in 1941. But for 12 years.
Did they get a chance to actually communicate with this thing? Learn something from?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it communicated. Yeah, it was able to communicate. Yeah, it had enough of mental capacity to do that.
Was it able to communicate easily with other chimps? That would have been interesting. That kind of experiment.
I don't know if that
to see if they could.
There was a lot of documentation on this.
Uh-huh.
It was mostly from a nurse that talked about it, and then able to verify all the places that she worked at and the experimentation that was going on there to verify it. That was pretty tough. But I was able to go back into their records and verify all her information.
This would in itself be an interesting movie to do.
Oh, that would be crazy. Especially a direct...
Because it's like an Elephant Man type of situation, kind of thing. And
yeah.
To see something like that, I could only, if that lady, is she still alive?
No, she's passed now. She was really old at the time that
It'd be interesting if she had relatives. I recently...
I saw it was a documentary that they had on genetic experiments.
Oh my God!
And I was shocked to even find it. It's one of those things that kind of come to me sometimes that I just kind of trip out on, because I have this weird interconnection with electronics and getting information that I have no idea why in the hell it comes to me. That's why I wrote my book. I was speaking to people about that recently. So,
well, you're probably tuning into those frequencies, and who knows how many different kinds of things are flowing through that electricity. You got the electricity in your body, and I think you're tuning into a. John and I were talking about this in the car. You just bam, you're blasted with ideas for screenplays, and you immediately pump them out in 5 days. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, like the shit now. I'm sitting there talking to him. I go, boom, because he says, "Hey, how about Paul?" And I go, "I know how to get Paul."
Wow!
And he goes,
all of a sudden, it just...
Right? I said, well, let me go write it down. And then I wrote it down. You saw what I wrote down.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my God. It takes somebody 20 years to come up with this idea. And I just go, oh no, it just came off the top of my head.
It was funny too, because as we were going up to his office, he's like, oh yeah. He's like, Mike got an idea to write something down, so he's in there writing it down. And I'm like, oh, that's great. That's awesome. Of course he is, And he's... So, he's... I mean, it's thoroughly impressive to see just how much you simply allow. How crazy is that? It takes so much less effort to allow the ideas to flow through than it does to go, wait, hold on, let me be very critical of every single one of these. Let me have a microscopic view on every single little piece of this. No, let's just kind of let it flow through.
Let it flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll find the nuggets later, let's just go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at that productivity. It's crazy.
I just put up all my red flags with people. But with the creativity and the energy flow and stuff, bring it on. And that's what just kills me.
I just love the ideas so much.
And, and it does. A lot goes back to my background. Okay? I did all kinds of weird shit as a kid. I was always doing crap. I'm an explorer. That's what I was. I lived in the mountains. I did all kinds of weird shit. And
so you're a survivalist, basically. You're telling me how you know about the berries and the what to eat.
I could live out there in the middle of nowhere. My uncle and I used to do that. We did this twice. Right? I think I was 15, 16 at the time. That we took, I don't know, 6, 8 cases of beer, and I think maybe 1.5 ounces or 2 ounces of pot with us, and we just took off. Went out in the middle of nowhere and said, okay, let's go live. We lived on fish, berries, rattlesnake. I found like a guava type of tree out there in the middle of nowhere. I tried it. It was great.
Wow,
sweet
dude.
As hell.
Did you have one of those like little? I'm imagining those like little manuals where you're like matching up the berries in it. It shows you like okay, this is okay to eat. No, don't go near that.
No, we didn't have any.
You guys just somehow knew this stuff?
Yeah, you just do it out of ingenuity. You look at the plant. Yeah. And then, like, if you can find dandelions, you always know you can eat dandelions. That's like having lettuce. It's tremendous for you. It's the best thing for your liver you can have on the planet.
I've heard of dandelion wine. I've never tried it. I didn't even realize that was actually really what that was. I never even understood.
Yeah, the dandelion weed. It is just tremendous for your health.
Wow.
Yeah, making it into a salad with the leaves. You take the roots, you dry the roots, and you make it into a tea. The roots. And the tea is fantastic. It tastes great. Yeah. You put a little bit of honey in with it. It's great.
Dude.
Yeah. So, there's all kinds of stuff out there in nature you can eat. So,
how long were you guys out there? Just
we
living
go out
off
for 2
of,
weeks. 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
Like that.
Wow.
Yeah. Drink a lot of beer, get high all the time, and, eating whatever. Yeah.
That's the kind of language, that's the natural unfolding of the universe is plants and animals and babies. They're just tapped right in the full allowance of the universe. And once I started looking at the unfolding of nature, how that just does it, just no force, it just goes, here it is. It just grows in that direction. It goes, I'm going here, and here we are, and here's how I'm expressing myself. And it all cooperates together, and the bees come along, and, it all fits together so awesomely, and everything just cooperates. And they give us what we need, and we give them what they need. And it's so phenomenal.
Yeah.
And as I look at them, and I respect how it unfolds, and the more that I try to grow a relationship with it, in that sense, the closer I get to understanding the language of the universe. Because now I'm like, oh, okay, cool, here we go. We're in the same frequency.
It's the harmony right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's this balance, natural balance in everything. From the Mexicans eating rice and beans to get the complete proteins to have a complete diet, to the bees pollinating the plants, everything has balance to it.
Yeah, and naturally just drawn to it. Isn't that interesting?
Naturally
it
drawn
just
to
knows.
it. Yeah.
The squirrel knows where that the acorn is what it needs to eat. It knows what bushes to not go near. Just automatically. Yeah. It's just crazy.
And the other diet one that gets me is the Japanese. Soybeans shouldn't be eaten by people. Okay, God's honest truth. Soybeans are horrible for you.
Soybeans are made with people.
But they shouldn't. They screw up your thyroid. Okay, they're a female plant, so it messes up the whole male system, sexual system.
Whoa.
Okay, it does. It's the main reason why most of the men are becoming really skinny.
No wonder I have so many teats all of a sudden. So many teats. It'd be funny. Man. The more I eat the soybeans, I grew another nipple. Well, there's 8 nipples now.
Yeah. But if you eat fish, it takes away the effects of the soybean. So it's the perfect diet for the Japanese.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you can eat all the soybeans you want as long as you're eating fish.
So they're it's a wash. It's like canceling each other out.
Right. Just like the rice and beans with the Mexicans.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And who'd ever figure that?
And just being naturally drawn to that. And you know what's so interesting? How that environment feeds the inhabitants, and the inhabitants feed the environment. Yeah. It just keeps going with itself. Like somehow.
Right.
Like there's those Paiute Indians who they eat those flies that are in the pond. They go out there and they sift it with like this tennis rack looking thing, and they eat the flies. And you're going, whoa, like, okay, that's all they got apparently, that or the fish or whatever creatures are running around. Yeah. And you're like, whoa, you're going to end up making a diet based on whatever's there in your environment. Whatever it's and you're not going to judge if your grandma did it and your great grandma did it and everybody eats the flies. Well, that's just what we eat. Yeah. And
I explained that to Sammy the other day. I said, what animals on this planet eat food because it tastes good? One, us. Nobody else. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you just eat steak for what steak is, it's not sure
No.
isn't appetizing.
No, but if we were animal, we didn't have cooked food and all these tools
Right.
that we have.
Right.
What would we eat? You know, thank God we found fire so we could cook our food. Otherwise, we were eating raw meat, raw fish, raw whatever. Yeah.
And then, who came up with the idea to add a season, or that a season was even something to eat,
Right.
or even, like the
Yeah.
idea of salt. Oh, throw some salt on that
Yeah.
thing. Ooh, now there's something about that. I
Yeah.
like that. Oh, here's a little...
That goes back to the Indians and the Chinese, because they're connected. And that's where all the seasoning came in. Because the Spice Islands and all the spices that the American Indians kept following. Because the American Indians, they're the American Indians and some of the Mexican Indians. That's where all the really good holistic medicine came from, because they were trying every plant there was for medicinal reasons and writing down all this stuff and keeping record of all of this. And the Amazon, that's where almost every prescription drug is originated from. Is from some kind of plant in the Amazon.
Incredible. And of course ayahuasca, that connects, as you've always heard through these stories, that connects. It's like with true Mother Nature. You are truly communicating with Mother Nature when you're taking ayahuasca, and she teaches everything about yourself. You're really confronted with the dark side, and your worst nightmares, all that stuff, but you work through it. You get out the other side, and dude, you are just, and it's like you've shed that old skin, and now you've grown into this whole new thing.
Yeah.
It's amazing how that stuff is, like the Oriental herbs, the seasons, the all the herbs and spices, all that stuff that you can take that is just a natural, helpful thing, like the Infinity Diet that you created in your book.
One of the best health things there is on the planet for a human being, okay, is algae. If you eat algae, if you want to stop cancer and be really, really healthy, eat shark. Shark has like tremendous properties because sharks never get sick.
Wow.
They have the most incredible immune system, and whatever illness comes to them, it's gone. They're never sick at all during their whole existence.
What do you think the elements are of the shark, of its immunity system, that it could be the golden nuggets of that immunity system, so we could just take it in pill form?
Oh, it goes back to the way that the blood. That's what it all goes back to. Is that there's something in the shark tissue, and especially like the cartilage, that'll change the way that the blood. How do I explain this? It cuts off the circulation to certain things that are harmful to your body.
Oh.
Yeah, it kind of like builds a barrier.
Okay, it starves them in a sense.
It starves
or something.
them out.
It's like, okay, you know
Right.
what? We're closing off that path.
Right.
Okay.
And that's what it does. Yeah, and it says, forget you. Yeah, you're off to the side. Yeah, and there's nothing else on the planet that does that. Nothing at all. Yeah, and then the algae, like spirulina, chlorella. Those are the two main ones. Spirulina especially, it has as much protein. It actually has per volume twice the protein of beef. Okay, and this is a plant. Okay, algae. Well, no, algae's living. Okay, it's twice the protein of protein. It's missing 4 ingredients to having every nutrient that the human body needs to live.
Algae?
This algae, spirulina. It's off the coast of Mexico. Okay, 4. Only 4 things missing. Okay, we need 102 different nutrients, micronutrients, and vitamins.
So you really ought to take that instead of a daily vitamin, basically.
Oh, definitely.
That just...
Yeah, over
Dude.
the top. Okay?
Spirulina.
Yeah. And it's only missing one element to replicating red blood cells.
Interesting.
So it is the *1 super blood food on the planet.
And it sounds like a true living organism.
It's a true living organism that's actually good for you.
It sounds like it's like a
superfood.
It's living.
It's the best superfood. Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
I gotta look into this now.
Yeah, get spirulina. Spirulina's great. I used to take it all the time. That and chlorella.
Imagine that, like it's sort of like a what are they called? Jamba Juice type of place, but with like spirulina and like those kinds of elements.
Some of the places are offering it now.
Oh,
they have the tablespoons. You put a tablespoon of spirulina in there, and they charge you like an extra $1.50 or whatever it is. Yeah.
So would you say that algae of a pond is akin to sort of like the seaweed of the ocean?
Yeah, kind of like that.
Now, here's a question: with the seaweed, what's the seaweed like?
Oh, seaweed's tremendous.
Is that similar to the properties of algae?
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. The algae's a little different because
it's just an enclosed area.
It lives in this like it's almost like a whole bunch of amoebas all put together to make one big huge glob.
Interesting.
And that's how it lives.
A living glob.
A living glob. Yeah.
So
and that's how this stuff lives. While the seaweed's more of like just a plant where its roots are there in the ocean and gets water.
Oh, God. Oh, okay. So
it's a little different.
Yeah.
And
those were just plants that were at once at the bottom of the ocean, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah. The seaweed lives on the top of the ocean because it has to take in light to live.
Oh.
The algae doesn't.
Oh.
It can stay underneath the water and it gets plenty of oxygen, gets everything. It gets oxygen for the water. Yeah, that's how it lives.
It gives oxygen to the water.
It's a living creature. It's it's alive. It's more on the animal side than the plant side. Yeah, it's kind of like in between. It's like one of these weird things that God made.
I was just thinking, like to create these things and go, okay, you know what, this, here we got this, and you know what, let's have this thing that kind of. It's like a series of Venn diagrams. It's a series of things that fit together. Yeah. Finding those little puzzle pieces and how they fit together and how they,
Then, if you want to go back to Matilda's story with that alien at Roswell. And what the alien at Roswell said is, hey, we came here. She was the one that, spilled the beans and said, hey, this is where there's a whole bunch of other aliens out there too, you guys, not just us. Okay? We're not the only ones there. We're the good guys. Okay? And, you can basically call us the aliens of the, she said, no better terms, flowers and bugs. That's what she called themselves. She goes, we're the ones that bring we brought a lot of the DNA of your planet to balance everything out.
Incredible. Yeah. So they helped paint,
she helped
production design it.
Right. Yeah.
Here's some algae here. Here's a little crab over there that lives in the sand.
Right.
Here's a little bug that it eats. Here's a thing that eats that crab.
Exactly.
You're just finding and figuring it out. And it's like...
And let's introduce it to Earth.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it goes back to Earth being the same thing. The most violent planet out of all the civilized planets in the Milky Way galaxy. That's what she claimed. That's what the other alien claimed also.
Interesting.
When you hear the same story from two different aliens, and their stories jive about what's going on with Earth, you're like, ooh, okay, you guys are on the same plane here.
Yeah.
And, and when she talked about that, hey, we're here to balance things out and blah, 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 and, now you humans, wow, you're kind of fucking up the whole equation here.
Wow.
And that's why we're here. Why do you think we're in New Mexico? You're blowing up bombs in New Mexico. Okay? We're monitoring you guys, and, well, our ship crashed. Now we're stuck here. At least I am. The other guys, they were fortunate enough to die.
Boy, oh boy.
Yeah, and
wow,
that's
man.
What the story was about. Yeah, and she talked about that. It was all about the DNA. It was just bringing DNA over here, starting new seeds, starting new plants. Let's make this place like a jungle.
That must have been so much fun, adding all those little elements, all those little pieces, going...
Yeah,
okay, here's going to be a Sasquatch. I just going to put... I'm thinking if I love to put question marks in people's brains, I'm sure there are other creatures that are even more highly evolved in my brain in terms of vibrations that also loves doing mischief and pranks and leaving question marks in people's brains.
Yeah.
And those things obviously know that I like those things, so they're going to leave those things for me.
Yeah.
It's like, here you go, here's a little thing for you. Just go, just follow your intuition, you'll find something fun, I promise you.
Right.
I left something over there for you. It's a little thing that makes you go, It's like when Scooby-Doo floats through the air, he's like, I see, you see him, he's like moving towards the smell, like, there's ham and eggs in here,
Yeah, you see the smoke.
Yeah, he follows it. Yeah, it's like this guide is going. Okay, bloop, bloop, here's this little thing.
That's funny. So yeah,
God, that is so crazy.
Because I do.
Man.
I look at that story, and then and she mentioned the same thing. Then stupid humans show up over here and fuck up everything. And that's where the other alien race came in and says, "Hey, all right, now we know where we could put our prisoners." Because that was their whole plan, because they were the bad alien race.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they populated us with
the prisoners.
Prisoners.
Yeah.
It's like Prisoner Planet.
It was Prisoner Planet. Yeah. That was their plan until they had their war, which caused the extinction of the dinosaurs. That's what they claimed. Because they had a full-out war over the planet back about 60 million years. They said 68 million years.
It'd be interesting to see a movie called Prisoner Planet, and it's showing, our savageness, so to speak, our barbaric nature, and then how it parallels to the elements of the Annunaki that reflect those exact same things, but we don't even understand it. It's like we just see these two different stories going on, and we realize that, those guys, in a sense, basically made us,
Yeah, exactly.
And it came from these things, and here's how we came,
Right.
We are living on the Prisoner Planet. We are the descendants of these, these sort of spirits,
And more research I do, the Anunnaki were the masters of technology. They had technology. The stuff they're finding on Mars. The Stargates. The beacons that they made back then. The Pyramid of Giza was a beacon. The pyramid on Mars was a beacon. They could see each other. You can see them coming out from Earth. They knew exactly where they had to go when they had to travel, back then. They had to shut them down when they left the planets because they said...
So it's kind of like a lighthouse, so to speak, a
That's
cosmic lighthouse. They could see...
Exactly.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Did they? Are you implying that they? Did you say they connect, like connecting the dots, so to speak?
They
like
wouldn't
the
connect
lights
the
are kind of
dots,
like,
but you could see. You would see it coming from Earth.
Was it like a pathway? Like you would see, like in a.
It was a pathway.
That's cool.
You could see,
like a spotlight in a fog or something.
Right.
You could just.
So probably from space, you'd figure planet Earth would kind of look like a lollipop, because it'd have this beam of light coming from it. Yeah,
that's cool.
And it was strategically placed.
And so they would travel. They would travel through that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it was? Were they traveling through light speed, so to speak?
No, the physical gold that they would take off the planet, they would have to transport it from ships.
From the ships, okay.
From ships.
Gotcha. So the one ship was going to the other planet, and it was using that as a guidance system, basically, to go
to Mars. Right, because they would travel. They'd have to travel between Earth and Mars, and they had landing strips. They had the ones in South America that they find. The landing strips there, because they were all connected with Cain's people. Because Cain's people they were also mining for gold. You look at all the Incas, the Mayans, and all those people. What they have? A bunch of gold also. So they were mining gold over on the Western Hemisphere, mining gold really bad over in like Zimbabwe.
For the Anunnaki. So basically, those were all the different areas where this was going on. It's like if you got a bunch of different Wendy's out there. Like, okay, here are all the franchises, so to speak.
Right.
But it's all funneling back to the Anunnaki, which is all going back to their planet.
Mars.
To Mars.
To Mars.
Okay.
Because it was
for the
easier,
atmosphere.
Right. Because the way that Mars goes around the planet compared to the way Earth goes around the planet, I forgot how it all worked. Because Mars has almost an identical year cycle of 365 days around the planet. So Mars is always so far away from us. So it was easier for them to go from here to Mars than it was from Earth to their planet.
Oh.
So they used Mars as a jumping place because Mars had life. They had water, they had everything else until the Great Flood.